What's up, everybody? Rob live back in studio with a healthy, well, somewhat healthy Jim Chance.
I'm hoping I'm healthy.
How you feeling?
I feel better. Yeah, it's a long process.
Yeah, no. For viewers who haven't tuned in recently, Jim's had a series of eye surgeries with his detached retina, and a lot of prayer, a lot of faith involved, and it's still a process, and so we're still supporting behind that. We actually have not been in studio in a month to allow for the proper recovery. And so, Jim, how's the recovery going for you?
It's good, but the problem's still there. It's just not as severe. So I have 2 weeks left. We're crossing our fingers that the retina will stay attached to the eye. I literally it detached, and I've had 2 surgeries to put it on, and it keeps falling off. So it's not the surgeon. It's everyone. Dr. Thendu, shout out to you. You've done a really good job. It's just my healing process is causing a bigger scab meaning scar tissue in my eye, to where they have to, you get a big scab and you have to pull it, it's pulling away the retina as it heals. And so it has to heal lightly and gently instead of harsh and thick and ugly. And so it's a process.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot through that process. And so we're going to have patience and faith. For anyone out there who'd like to send out some encouraging comments, please get onto our YouTube channel and put some comments in there for Jim, some prayer and some love, because he could use all the support right now. We're very grateful to have him. Speaking of gratitude, gratitude is currently the attitude, because we're in November. And like I mentioned in our prior episode, guys, that we kind of jump from Halloween to Christmas, and we kind of forget that there's this beautiful month of November where even the fall colors, I've decided, Jim, this is my new favorite season. And because it's not just the colors in the fall, but it's this idea to be grateful for what currently exists. And I know that society says, hey, let's go get more, bigger, faster, stronger, better. And sometimes I just like to take inventory of what currently exists.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, like I was saying, that 98.9 is already playing Christmas music, and we already have Christmas commercials.
Yeah, Mariah Carey.
It's like, oh
Not
yeah,
yet.
it's like, geez, seriously, can you slow down a bit? Give the Pilgrim people some.
The Pilgrim. You know what we need to do, Jim? Here's the thing: we need to write our own Thanksgiving anthem.
Right? Yeah, that would be.
Turkey love,
but I think
gravy.
I think that a big tradition that a lot of people are doing nowadays, which we've done it before, is Friendsgiving. I think I love
Friendsgiving.
I think it's an opportunity, whether it's family, friends, coworkers, whoever it is. But I think it really shows a lot to say, pick one day that you could get with your peeps and have any type of food engagement. Not a barbecue. You could do that all summer.
Can we do a Friendsgiving?
Yeah, that'd be a sweet.
All right,
podcast,
you know what, guys?
right?
Tuesday. The Tuesday before Thanksgiving, Jim and I, let's do a Friendsgiving here and bring all our friends in.
Yeah, we could. I mean,
We'll eat down there, lay out some tables and chairs.
Oh.
I'll bring the turkey.
All right. Ooh. See, why does it have to be turkey?
It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Let's do barbecue.
I used to have
Tri-tip.
I had family get-togethers, and we had hot dogs and nachos, dude. It
Yeah,
was like
simple.
because it's not the food.
You're right.
It's the camaraderie you want with your peeps, right?
You hear
your
that,
family and
Nasser?
friends. Yeah,
One of
right.
our best friends is our mutual best friend. Actually, the guy who introduced us is Nasser, and he complained about my stuffing last year. So it's not about the food, Nas.
Yeah,
it's about
right.
the love.
No.
Anyway, we got a love here in the studio, and I want to show some extreme gratitude to an up-and-coming writer, director.
Yeah, this is good.
He's jack of all trades, getting out there and doing himself, investor in his work, Mr. Gonzalo Alatorre. Thank you for
Thank
coming
you very
in.
much for having me. Yeah.
Yes, so the way that we kind of ran into each other is the beauty of social media.
Yeah.
Right? I'm scrolling through and I'm seeing this movie. And I see a bunch of guys working on a movie, and I'm like, who's putting this together?
Yeah.
And that was you. Can you talk a little bit about your latest project?
Yeah. This is a short film called The Chicano Story, and I grew up, watching films, and like a lot of people, but I wanted to do my own stories. So this is something that I saw growing up. As gangs in the 90s and the early 2000s. So I wanted to put together, one piece of my history and put it one into one. But, taking my story, but adding a little bit, a little bit of a little bit of drama, a little bit of comedy, and making it entertaining.
And so you said that it comes from your upbringing. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Southern California and right here in the Central Valley.
Oh,
Uh,
that's a okay. So SoCal, what area are we talking? I
uh,
used to live in Santa Clarita,
yeah, the Coachella Valley,
Coachella
Palm
Valley.
Springs area.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was there
Indio,
this last summer.
yeah,
Indio, Termo.
Thermo, yeah. You got Mecca, Thermo, all those little
Yeah, I was
places.
in Termo.
Yeah, all those little places. I grew up, and not just here. My parents were farm workers, so during the summers they used to come over here and do the uva and do the grapes and
Were
stuff
you
like that.
also out there with them?
Yeah, of course.
So man, you did the tough work.
Yeah. I grew up. My parents were their whole life worked in the fields.
Are you first generation?
First generation? Yeah.
And what part of Mexico you guys from?
My parents are from Guanajuato.
Guanajuato.
Guanajuato, yeah, a little small city called Penjamo, Guanajuato. Yeah.
Okay. And have you been there to
Yeah.
visit? You still have family over there?
growing. Yeah, I still have family over there. My grandma has a house over there. She has a huerta, and growing up, I used to go back and forth from I mean every maybe 2-3 years. I used to go over there for like a week or two.
So growing up, was Spanish your first language or English?
Spanish was my first language.
Because that's always a different experience too, right? Coming into school and having to learn English.
Yeah.
Was that
yeah.
in Coachella, the early years?
Yeah, the early years, Coachella, and here in the Central Valley, like a Wood Lake.
Okay. You're in Wood Lake.
The Wood Lake area, and I
Where'd you end up going to high school?
two high schools, Coachella Valley High School over there in Coachella, and halfway through, my parents moved over here to Visalia, so I went to Redwood High School here in Visalia,
Okay, Redwood. And then graduated from Redwood.
and I went back to Coachella my senior year, but I didn't graduate, and I had to go back to school later on. So I
Okay,
got my,
kinda back and
my
forth.
got my GED and went back to school, and afterwards, yeah.
So you were talking about referencing a certain period that you're trying to capture in your movies. Where were you at that time when you were going through that experience that kind of inspired the film?
Yeah, I will say between maybe a teenager to all the way to like maybe 20 years old, where um, a lot of the music kind of influence. I feel like a lot of the music influenced like Eazy-E, Dr. Dre,
Oh, yeah,
Snoop
yeah.
Dogg. That's like my music that I grew up with. Tupac, and I feel like that era influenced a lot of young Latinos and blacks and any other ethnicities too,
Yeah.
or even Asians too. That culture was to be gangster, or like Tupac talking about like gangster rap and stuff like that. So we used to wear the baggy pants,
Yeah.
that Nike Cortezes, and being bald, or combing your hair with 3 flowers back. And,
Were you actually in a gang at that time or just
No.
around it?
just around it? I mean, I think I got lucky because my parents were farm workers, and then once I started making friends, they took me out of school and moved back and forth. So I never had like a. If I was to be growing up like in a LA area or somewhere, I probably would have been hanging out with the wrong crowd and probably being a gangster and jumped in. But we're up and down Southern California, Northern California. Central California. We're up and down all the time. So I think that helped me out to kind of get out from the bad friends and stuff. So.
And as far as like, having to relocate constantly, do you think that kind of took its toll on having to always make new friends and be at a new school and adapt?
Yeah. It definitely took a toll because I will make good friends. Sometimes I'll make good friends in one school. Sometimes I'll make bad friends in another school. And but yeah, moving back and forth from school to school, I don't even remember how many schools I went to. That's how just in high school towards the end, my parents kind of settled. They bought themselves like a little trailer, and they kind of settled. But afterwards, they moved back and forth from the summers. Yeah.
Wow. And so after high school, what was your path then?
After high school, I just started working, like tire shops. I just wanted to make money and get a nice car, and and just work.
So college wasn't really
No, college was
okay,
not.
in the plans.
No, like in my like the farm worker community, they don't really encourage you to go to college, or they don't really talk about it. And my parents too, they came from a ranch in Mexico where they only went to, like, my mom only went to sixth grade, my dad probably second or third grade, and so their parents were just, oh, you gotta work, 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 work. The only thing was work. So I didn't get no encouragement from college right after school, and I feel like high school too. Like, I wasn't paying attention, and my parents never encouraged me to do homework, or they were just working, trying to put food on the table, and trying to pay the rent. And I felt like the encouragement of school and college didn't come like during school or right after school. It came afterwards.
Okay, so now I know that you're a filmmaker now, and all artists, right? We're all inspired by someone. I look, what I do. I look at Oprah. I look at Arsenio Hall. I look at some of the people that I think are great at the on-camera interview stuff, right? Who are your inspirations for film?
I love Quentin Tarantino,
Oh yeah,
and I would say
Pulp
probably,
Fiction.
yeah, and like I love the like the Kill Bill and the Django, and and I would say too David Ayer. He's one of the ones like Terminator 2,
Oh okay.
and then he did like some other movies like I forgot about that Fury, like Fury, the World
Oh
War
yeah, with
II
a
movie.
tank. Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, those type of movies, like I love them. I can watch them over and over and over again and never get tired of them.
No, it's kind of like a music artist where you can just sense their style, right? You look at the camera angles, the editing, the sound, the script,
Yeah,
right? The pace is all there.
yeah. You see it, how they work it, and then I started seeing it in my mind too. Since I watched so many movies as a little kid, that was my escape. Since my parents were always working, I used to put movies, either like E.T. or anything like that, and I just escaped from kind of living in just crappy ass little shacks and stuff, and the farm worker barns and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's what kind of was my escape from the farm working community and stuff.
When you create, right, your own work, do you kind of envision that, like, trying to create a world where people can escape to the way you did with your movies? Or what do you feel is like your purpose behind the creation?
I feel my purpose is telling Chicano stories. I know there's I got Mexico over there, and I feel like here Hollywood hasn't really caught up to Chicano stories, and I feel like what, I need to do our stories and tell it from our voices, and I know there's like a lot of like black movies that they tell the slave, like 12 Years a Slave, and you got from the Jews, like Schindler's List, where they tell the Jews story, but
Yeah.
who's telling our story? And that's where I see Hollywood where it kind of lags. Like, no, I want to tell the Chicano story, and
From direct experience.
from direct experience, from my history, from my past, or whatever I saw, in my lifestyle, and whatever I think is kind of lacking. Like, damn, we have a lot of history here in the United States. We have an American history, and nobody's telling our story. So that's where I kind of, we need to tell Chicano stories or Mexican American stories.
Yeah.
A lot more than from our voices. So yeah, that's my inspiration behind it.
Okay. And so, what is the storyline for this project?
The story, the the storyline is, it's
Did he say that? Does it say the name? What's the name of the movie?
the Chicano story.
Chicano Story.
The Chicano Story. Wait, is that the title on your?
Yeah, that's the title.
Okay.
That kind of came when I wrote it. That wasn't supposed to be the title, but it kind of went with it.
Yeah.
It was when I finished the script, and I finished it like in one day, and
Well, you
I-
wrote this in one.
yeah. So I was like, the Chicano story. It was a Chicano story, right? And
How long was it on your mind before you decided, hey, I'm going to do this? How long had you been thinking about it?
I know I wanted to write a gangster movie because I grew up with like a Blood In Blood Out and American Me. I don't know if you guys seen that
Oh
those
yeah,
movies.
yeah. Blood in, blood out.
Blood In Blood Out, American Me, Menace to Society. So I like
Yeah.
those gangster movies from the early '90s, and so I was like, no, I wanna, and I myself, grew up watching stories, and you know, kind of like the storyline of this movie is about how we used to how Chicanos grew up, from the house, with the parents, from and hanging out with the gangster friends, or and partying and stuff like that, and what's going on in those parties, and a lot of times we used to go out parties and stuff, and people, you hear stories or hear shots fired or somebody got stabbed, and a lot of stuff happened in those parties. So that was kind of like what I wanted to generalize it, where everybody that grew up in that era, like, oh yeah, I used to go to parties, house parties, and yeah, I saw
Yeah.
somebody got shot or something.
Yeah.
So that was pretty common. So I wanted to generalize it, a gangster story, but generalize it where everybody can, everybody can, oh, that was our story back then.
Well, now that you say that, like, all these things happening, and that's our story, right? Here's the part where I kind of trip out, and I still see it as a teacher. As a student, right?
Yeah.
You're on the weekend, you go to one of these house parties, you see all this crazy stuff happen. Then on Monday, you're in class with a bunch of kids with a completely different experience. They went to church on Sunday, they ate dinner with their families, they had a nice, calm sleepover, and now you're all in the same classroom.
Yeah.
And you're trying to learn, and part of learning is sharing experiences, and your weekend's different from Joey's, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Say, what'd you do this weekend, Gonzalo? Well, my primo got stabbed, so we're at the hospital till 2 a.m. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
so contrasting backgrounds in the same room. That's what I love about the classroom. We learn from each other. What were you gonna say, Jim?
One of the things that I was going to ask him was what decade is this film from? Like, is it back in the 80s, 90s? You
Sounds
said 90s,
90s to
right?
me.
So, and have because with what you're saying, it's old school. It's old school growing up as a Chicano, growing up coming from Mexico into LA, in the Central Valley and stuff. And it's interesting because Robert and I grew up in that same type of atmosphere, and now my parents didn't go to Mexico, but
Yeah.
but being able to say, hey, where are you going this weekend? Oh man, my parents, we gotta go back to Mexico to help my Nina or whatever over there and stuff, and then they're so it's just, there's two different worlds, actually probably more than that, because you have family in Mexico life, then you have coming over the border, coming in and trying to make a life of yourself wherever you're settling. Parents and trying to make everything work out, as the kids still want to party, play, and not really realize what's important at that age, right? I mean, I don't know. I was just kind of curious because I'm actually excited about seeing it, because I mean, it's kind of our era.
It is, and I was a little surprised. I thought he would do like early 2000s.
Oh yeah, well, and maybe that experience for somebody coming over now, is probably a different lifestyle than what we had back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is late '90s, so I wanted to
Yeah.
include, like, like everything that was styled back then. Like there was the pagers and stuff, and
Break dancing,
the CD,
yeah,
the
break
CD
dancing, all
player,
that
the
stuff, CDs, Walkman.
So I kind of included some of that in there.
Man, you had a whole thing about finding props.
Yeah. So yeah, it was like the late '90s, and that's where I kind of saw it. But growing up, like I said, my parents were farm workers, so I always grew up in the hood and stuff, and that's where I saw all this stuff, and like you said, you mentioned like, oh, yeah, this family, had a nice dinner here, and but a lot like Chicanos, kind of a lot that get diverse, like from that style. I was like that too until like started meeting like bad friends and started going out, and my parents didn't know the culture here, so they didn't know it.
They couldn't see the signs.
They couldn't see the signs. They're just hanging out, and that's it.
They didn't realize.
Yeah, they didn't realize that I was slowly going into bad friends, or even the baggy pants, instead of, hey, don't be wearing baggy pants. Those are, because I had a friend that his parents were strict, and they didn't let him wear baggy pants. He wore baggy pants for a while, and then dad, no, take them off. You have to wear not baggy, don't look gangster and stuff like that. So he ended up, not going in the direction I did. So um, he was more conservative.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the actual production of the film. You wrote this in one day, and then at one point did you say, "Hey, I'm not going to shop this. I'm gonna invest myself and finance this thing because that's a big risk." How did that process begin?
Yeah, I have 3 scripts, and I started one with like 160 pages, millions of dollars, and like I wrote like a Kill Bill, Django, the Chicano status.
Oh man.
And then now, and when I started doing more research and research and research, and I'm like, damn, like, well, you need investors, you need money, you need like this whole production. So I scaled it down to another script that to me like, I was a lot smaller, and I wanted to do that one, but it still had more. I had more locations, I had more actors, and I had more money involved. So, and well, my partner KP, I volunteered. So, in order for me to learn about production, I had to call around and I had to volunteer in these production film sets, and I started volunteering and I started seeing the reality of it. You need paid actors and you need this and you need all these lights and you need all these cameras, and so I was like, let me scale it down even more, and to more like a few locations, less actors, but a really good story. And so it came from large, medium to smaller, and where I can do it with a small budget, and that's how I kind of came to that point.
And then you take the dive. You start with you have a script, then you create a production team, and then start casting. Is that how it works?
Yeah, well, I partner up, with KP,
KP.
and I pitched it to him. Hey, listen, I got these 3 stories. I got 2 stories, and and but he did a short film to himself, and I volunteered in it, and I'm like, man, I need to scale it down more, and I presented the Chicano story to him, and he actually like, let's do it, and so he's the one that started casting. He's more of he's been in the game for a long time, so he knows and he's done it before. So he started casting. He's like, no, yeah, let's sit down, let's have a coffee. I think we can do this one. This one's a lot easier. This one's a lot less, less money, less locations. I like this one. So that's where it kind of like, we set up a date. It was maybe a month and a half later, and he started working on it, getting the casting and the locations. And me too, I started getting the locations and skating out for talent, and then that's what we put together, a team of the makeup and the wardrobe and, the lead actor and the cameras and, the DP, and so we put together a team, we put a date, and then that's what it came down to it. And we shot it in 2 days, and it was
Okay, so 2-day production.
yeah, a Saturday and a Sunday.
Are
Yeah.
the locations here in the Central Valley?
Yeah, they're all in the center of Valley. Yeah, one of them's in one of my house, in my backyard, and down the street, and he has a studio, and and it's a complex. So we use that complex too. So they're all shot here in the close by.
In Fresno.
Yes, Fresno.
So if we live here in the valley, we'd recognize a lot of the scenes, maybe, or areas.
Yeah, probably. Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, that's great. Okay, now as far as the casting, how many actors?
The casting is probably about 5 or 6 actors.
And your
Probably.
lead.
Yeah,
Your lead is who?
yeah. The lead, his name is Juan, and like I said, he was trying to get an actor from LA, and he was interested. He had the look and everything, and he had a lot of experience. And I think he came out on a few Netflix, but he dropped out last minute because he didn't want to shave his head, because he's like, oh, he needs his hair because
For other parts.
for other parts. So we're like, no, like this is a gangster, 90s gangsters, and I want to make it a little bit raw where you need to shave your head. And we got another kid, and he had like a tail, and I was like, can he shave his head? Because I want the lead to shave his head. Not with the razor, but at least with the buzz cut.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, well, I'll shave my head, but not my tail. So I'm like, no, this is 90s.
So the deal breaker was the hair.
Yeah, the hair. The deal breaker was the hair, and this kid had long hair, and but he had the look, and I told him, you want to come out in a movie? He has no idea about movies. Like he just I just want to come out in a movie. Yeah. But are you willing to cut your hair? Because he had his hair for like years, and he's like, yeah, I'll cut my hair for the movie. And I was like, okay, perfect. And this was like 2-3 days before we were gonna shoot.
Is when you finally found your guy.
Yeah, you finally found my guy, and he ended up doing a pretty good job, and he fits that that what I have in my mind.
Yeah. So good. So now you got the lead, some supporting actors as well. These play the friends, or is like a group of? Are we following a group of friends, or are we following one guy through his life, day in the life?
And this is, I would say, is the mom and the son.
Okay.
It's like the pain of the mom and the son being lost out there and trying to find his way into like American culture or high school and so
What's the age for this the lead?
the lead was
He's in high school, or
he's in high school.
So okay.
High school. Yeah, so it was kind of like the main characters, like the mom and the son.
Okay.
And I wanted to show the Mexican culture. So we ended up doing like the food. We just make some pozole.
I don't know why I was thinking of that right now.
Yeah, and then we play what usually we do in a Mexican household, like loteria.
Yeah.
We put some loteria in there and
Loteria.
stuff. So I wanted to put some of the culture and some a family get together before the young kid goes into shaving his head and looking up to to the gangster, because it's the young kid is more like my idols are like Tupac, or like gangster rap, and in that era, that was what we used to listen to in the radio. That's what the radio was playing. Cool.
It was the soundtrack of our life.
Yeah, there's a soundtrack of our life. And we look up to them.
Yeah.
Like we look up to them, but at the same time, it wasn't. I felt like it was bad influence.
Yeah. And it wasn't necessarily, being Mexican American or Chicano.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't always a direct reflection, because Tupac, Biggie, those guys, they were living a different life. Biggie's from the East Coast, right? He has a different sort of neighborhood, but we could relate to the pain and to some of the struggle. And then what's funny for me is like sometimes hip hop artists who were a little bit more in alignment with my experience. I didn't necessarily always embrace them as much as I did some of these other guys that weren't, because I didn't live in South Central LA.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Dre was a big influence, in NWA. But then there was other guys who like were in more alignment with my experience, and I didn't necessarily embrace them as much as I thought I would, like Kid Frost. And then you remember Lighter Shade of Brown? So Lighter Shade of Brown, when they came out, they were the first ones like, that guy looks like somebody from my neighborhood, But I didn't necessarily resonate as well with them. But when I revisit their music now, and I think about like Sunday Afternoon and Latin Active, I'm like, wait, that was more in alignment. I don't know why I did reject it at the time. I was more into the R&B.
But I think the song brought us back to the memories of what we did Sunday afternoon. We already knew when we heard that song. We already know where we were while we heard that song.
Yeah,
usually hanging out on the grill. Yeah, somewhere chilling. We were, we weren't bumping down Mooney, driving that, but or maybe we were. I don't know.
Was cruising a big part of your experience? The cruising the strips.
Yeah,
the lowriders.
it was, but not lowriders, because right after that little gangster wannabe gangster era, that I jumped into street racing.
Oh,
So
okay.
I kind of like went from, once I got my car, it was like a Honda, and I
Yeah.
started fixing up Hondas and street racing and stuff like that. So I
Slow to
kind of,
fast. Slow
yeah.
to fast.
No, Fast and Furious came out,
Yeah.
and that went
Tokyo
viral.
Drift.
Yeah, everybody wanted to be a racer, so so I jumped from the gangster culture to like a street racer culture.
Okay.
So
Now, are you talking about the? So there's okay. So the street. I'm getting them confused. There's the street racing, and then where's the one where they kind of block off a street and they're just doing donuts and like Ghost Ride the Whip. You remember all that? Like, what is that culture?
uh,
Is that more of like stunts?
the like maybe like Tokyo Drift, maybe where they do like drifting.
They have a name for it, and they used to come on YouTube. I don't know what they're called.
This is a new where they do donuts in the
Yeah,
middle.
yeah.
Oh, so this is
What's that called?
the street takeovers.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, they block off the street and they start doing donuts.
Was
and,
that a part of your
No,
time?
no. This is all new. The street
Yeah.
racing back then is where we used to go into the middle of the orchards, and we like 50 cars or 100 cars, and then you line them up, and then you flag them, and
You
it's
just
just
go.
it's a straight line.
And you used to race cars.
Yeah, and I used to race cars, and I found sometimes when I get obsessed with something, I go all in. So like
Yeah.
right now, I'm obsessed with making films.
And here you are,
And
all
here,
in.
Yeah, I'm all in. So it's something that back then, right after high school, I got obsessed with building Honda engines, because I went to a street race. This is right after Fast and Furious, so I felt like Fast and Furious blew up and it went viral, and it kind of took over, especially California, and I went to a race in Whitewaters back over there in Palm Springs area, and there was like 100 cars, and there was this little Honda racing and smoking V8 Trans Ams and Mustang GTs and muscle cars, and that blew my mind. Like, how come this little Honda? What does it have in it? And they popped the hood, and it was an Acura engine into a little light chassis Honda, and that blew my mind. That's why, I got obsessed with it. I want to get a Honda because they're cheap to buy, and then they can go fast with a little bit of money and a different engine.
So you started building your own cars and racing.
Yeah.
How long did that last?
That lasted about 5 years until I kind of got over it, and I'm like, because it's very expensive.
Now, during this whole time, I'm assuming you had a day job, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What was your main occupation throughout this
that
time?
time I was like a mechanic. I was
Working on cars.
changing tires, and then from changing tires, I went to another shop where we did brakes and oil changes and maintenance, and I was kind of wanted to be an aspiring mechanic after that, because I was like working on my car and I was working on cars. So that was a little era of me working on cars and changing tires and doing oil changes and all that stuff.
And currently, besides the filmmaking, what is your other occupation?
My main job right now is I'm a concrete contractor.
Oh, okay.
So I do
Throughout the Central Valley?
Yeah, throughout here in the Central Valley, like decorative concrete.
Do you have any family, random question, because I haven't heard this last name, and all of a sudden it's in my life twice. Do you have any family in Kettleman City?
No.
Because, yeah, I know in Alatorre, Miguel.
Oh, really?
I just met him like 2 weeks ago. And I was
Really?
like, how you don't see a last name. You see Lopez, Gonzalez, and Alatorre. I was like, that stood out to me.
Really?
So, like, I wonder.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Alatorre is not that common.
No.
Not like Rodriguez or Gomez or like
yeah,
that.
they're in Kettleman.
Yeah, there is a few of them. That I seen around, but very few. Not very much. That last name.
Now, getting back to your film, when can we enjoy it if we want to see the movie, the finished product?
I'm thinking KP, my partner, is editing the shots, because talking about that, we shoot everything, and after that the post-production is where they start editing and cutting out the finding the right, because we do 2 or 3 takes on each scene, and they start finding the right one for each one and start cutting it and putting it all together into a timeline, and then after they do that, they start adding the sound editing. You put the sound and the music and all that, and that's where that's the post-production. Once that finishes, we render it, and then we seal it, and then that's when it's all done.
Are you planning to take it like to film festivals? And
Yeah, that's my goal to do it in film festivals, and hopefully, I feel like it's gonna win some awards because I don't know, it's just me being biased, but yeah, that's the plan, film festivals, and hopefully it wins some awards.
so, as a like the general public, if we saw this episode and we wanted to eventually see it, where would we find it?
We're First we're gonna do the film festivals, and it should be done like on December, but we're gonna submit it to some film festivals. We're planning to probably put it at like Amazon Prime or Tubi, and somewhere on that platform where we can put it out there and people can see it.
I love that exists now for filmmakers. Prior to this, you had to work with the studio and you had to know the right people. There's a lot of gatekeeping involved. And now, if you meet certain parameters, you can be out in the general public on Tubi and Prime. Shout out to those organizations for providing that for independent creators. What's your vision after this?
Keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah, I have another script.
I want the one. I want to see the one that you said was kind of like a Django type.
Oh well, that one it's like 160 pages, but that one is like the history of Chicanos. Is
That's the one I want to see.
Yeah.
Is that going to be a reality at some
Yeah.
point?
Well, I'm hoping. But this Chicano story, like let's say big studios, it wins awards, and studios, hey, do you have anything bigger based on this?
This is where you come.
This is where, oh yeah, I have this one right here, and this is the whole story of the Chicano history, because I love history, so I see America. This is like American history, so I see America. Like the British came in the 1600s or 1500s, and then you got the Spaniards, and then you got the Irish came in, and then you got the Italians came in the 1800s, and the the biggest wave of Mexicans came in right after World War II. I mean, we've been here for a long time, but the biggest wave in American history was probably from the 1950s when the Braceros came, from the 1940s, and they took over the agriculture because a lot of Americans were fighting overseas in either in Germany or over here in Japan. So from the 1950s probably to the 1990s, that's the biggest wave of Mexicans that immigrated to America. So I wanted to get that wave of that history, of American history, and it starts off. I got a little bit of story from my parents, and a story from my parents, my family members, and everything, and I put it all together to where everybody can relate to it, and it starts off in a poverty in el rancho, because if you talk to a lot of Mexicanos here, like they're all construction workers and agricultures, they have the same story of either we came from a rancho or a poor place that we had to, you know what, let's go up north, let's go to America to try to find a better place over there, and they leave their poverty ranch and then they come over here and they start working in the field and start working construction, because those are the two main industries that the Mexicanos work in, and here in America. So it starts off there and it ends up with immigrants having kids, in the 80s and the 90s, and then those kids falling into hardships, because it's not easy. Coming, a lot of people think, oh, it's easy to America, Mexicanos over there, they have it good and everything. No, like we suffered a lot, either with especially with gangs in our community, gang violence and drug addictions and all that. So a little bit of social problems that I had to throw in there. So it's kind of like from the beginning to the end, but I ended it with a positive message at the end. So I always want to end it with a positive message.
Yeah, no, that's good. I know some movies, I don't know. I've always been a kind of a happy ending type of individual with movies. I know some people, they don't really necessarily like that because like that's not real. That's not how it's not always a happy ending, and I understand that. But I always remember like looking at some of the old gangster films from like the '90s,
Mm-hmm.
and then like it didn't end well, and I'd be like, oh man, you mean Doughboy and these guys are not going to make it?
Yeah, yeah.
And it would upset me. But I had later reflecting back, like, well, that was the reality. It's not a happy ending. And that these directors are trying to speak. Hey, we need to fix this. This is not ending well. And so I really do look forward to seeing more of your messages and seeing more of myself in movies from directors who have similar backgrounds to me and my experience. And even Jim talking about, his community. I'd like to see a film from your perspective. I'm going to tell you his background real quick. He's from a small community called Cutler. You know where Cutler's at?
Oh yeah, small.
Right,
Small city.
predominantly Latino.
Oh, yeah.
Being one of the few, white guys in the neighborhood. That's a whole experience in itself,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it
Jim?
is.
Yeah, it was, and that's why I'm looking forward to seeing the perspective of what your film's about. Because growing up in Cutler, a lot of people are like, "Dude, you survived." And
How'd
it's
you
like,
make it?
how'd you survive? There's like only 4 white people in your whole town. It's like you just adapt. You adapt, and you become a chameleon. You just kind of, and parent upbringing. Making sure if your parents weren't there and you were neglecting, not really knowing if they were or not, but being involved. So those Sunday church things were bittersweet because my dad would know, like, hey, he was out all night. He didn't come home until like 4 a.m. So guess what my dad intentionally made us do Sunday morning?
Get to church.
He'd go to church, and he would look at me and be like, shouldn't have stayed out all night, huh? And I'm dying. So, I mean, just stuff like that you're like, okay, but I mean, that was the way he parented. So, but yeah, just staying out with your boys, doing good, bad things on the street,
Well, I think Gonzalo pointed something out that, we don't always look at it. As a teacher, I see it now. It's like our kids are going through an experience that we can't always relate to. And so sometimes, especially with the Latino culture, we don't always have an idea of what they're doing out there. And so we can't look for the signs. If I was raised in the United States and I'm second or third generation, I'm like, all right, let me look at the clothes. Let me see who his friends are. Let me look for the signs of drug use. But as parents just in survival mode, just hitting, I'm in the field 8-10 hours a day. I come home to rest, get some food, and then go back out there. I really don't have time to be like, mijo, what you do today? Oh, ¿dónde estás con tus amigos? Or, you know what I mean? We don't ask the right questions. And it's not out of neglect, it's survival. And not everybody understands that because they look at the culture and go, well, what are you guys doing with your kids? You don't even know what's happening with them. Well, I'm trying to make sure the lights stay on. You know what I mean? Like, it's a whole different experience that people need to know.
And with it being in the 90s, I mean, that was a different era. So you were outside all the time. The kids nowadays we didn't have social media in the 90s. So the only type of conversation you had is going to the house.
Face to face.
Yeah. So now it's just, I'm going to chill. And now your parents stay inside. They're safe. I know where they're at, but they're on social media doing stuff, stupid.
Could be even worse, right?
It's like you're dealing drugs online now, and you got a bunch of people showing up at your house, making deals or whatever. But yeah, back then it was just, the parents said, get out of here. I don't want to see you in the house, so you're out all
Till the
night.
Lights come on the street.
Sure, or the sun comes up.
Yeah. You have a point like where like you said, survival mode.
Yeah.
And the language barrier too, because my parents don't know English.
Yeah.
So and when they work in the fields, all they wanted to do just they get beat up all day, just rest, and they eat, come home, make food, and then go to sleep early and wake up at 3-4 in the morning again. And the kids are over here, and it's a different culture over here. They grew up in, like, for example, a lot of them don't speak English. They're over there and they grew up in Mexico, a whole different culture. And here the kids are growing up with a whole different culture. So it's like a barrier between the parents and the kids here. And they don't know what the kids, they didn't go to school here. So they don't even know the school system. They don't know everything. So there's like a barrier between the first generation of the parents and the kids here, so they don't know what the kids are sometimes doing here, and they don't think nothing of it. Like, oh yeah, they're going out, and like I said, in the '90s, you went outside and then go play or go hang out with friends, and you get together with a group of friends, and that's how you used to socialize. So that's like a good point where now kids don't want to go out. So, yeah.
Do you have children?
Yeah, I have one daughter. Yeah.
And you kind of see her experience being very different from yours.
Oh yeah, very, very different. Yeah,
I think it's hard.
We don't understand. Like sometimes our parents don't understand. We don't understand our kids.
Exactly.
It's kind of like it goes like that.
I have to catch myself because I'm like, wait, I sound like my dad right now. Right?
Back in my day.
Yeah, back in my day. When you start saying that,
Yeah,
you're like, oh.
you lose them.
So, what do you hope to accomplish through your filmmaking ultimately? When it's all said and done, and we look at the whole Alatorre collection,
Yeah.
what do you want to leave behind?
I just want to leave behind just like, to me, just like I said, like Chicano stories, like just our history. I think that's what I want to, or either stories that are impactful from the history point of view. Like I want to do like a bunch of Mexican American stories, but recently, like my wife is Cambodian, and we went to Cambodia, and we went to like um, the killing fields. There's like a killing fields museum over there where they killed 30,000 people and only like 99, like 6 people survived.
God.
And it was like a torture chamber for, they used to put people in there. And to me, I love sad stories. I love a movie that makes me cry, because I'm a big crybaby, but I love sad stories. And to me, when I went there and I saw this, like the ultimate sad story. So even though I do want to do a collection of all Mexican Americans, but I do look at other cultures and be like, man, this is a really sad story that needs to be told. It could go in that direction too. Like sometimes it comes to you. You have ideas what you want to do, but sometimes stuff comes to you, and sometimes it gets made. Like I really want to make another script, but this one got made because my partner's like, hey, we can do this one.
This one is tangible right now, reachable.
Yes, it's tangible and it's reachable. But yeah, the collection. What I want to do in the future is Mexican American stories, from our perspective, from our views, and from our voices. So yeah.
Oh, well, we're looking forward to all the work you're going to do in the future. I'm banking on this mindset you said. Hey, I get caught in something, I get obsessed with it, and I go. So I really feel like this is one of many films we're going to hear about from you. So when the release dates come out and everything's back, we'd like to invite you back to promote that and maybe have a little premiere, and then check how it goes on the circuit. But we're looking forward to the work. You guys remember this name, Gonzalo Alatorre, writer, director, jack of all trades in the film industry, telling the Mexican-American story. Look out for that. So from me, Rob Izquierdo, from Gonzalo Alatorre, and Jim Chance, we want to say thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you follow the links and follow all the work that he does. Until next time, it's love, peace, chicken grease. We out.